A very good afternoon, dear students, and welcome to the Agrawal Vidya Vihar English Medium College Digital Classroom. Hi, Professor Shaurya Shah. Welcome each one of you once again to the lecture of Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 2, also known as Corporate Accounting. Dear students, in the last lecture, we solved one long sum of your liquidator's statement. I suppose now each one of you must be clear with that part, how to prepare a liquidator's statement. Again, today we'll be moving on with one more university sum, right? The sum which you already have, I have already shared in Google Classroom. Again, the question we will discuss first, and then I hope you all must be ready with the format of liquidator's statement also. So let us begin, students. The sum which you have been given here is your on 1/4/2019 Infosys Limited went into voluntary liquidation. As you all must be knowing, our all sums will be related to voluntary liquidations only, students. First of all, we'll discuss all the things, then the adjustments, and then we can have a good idea about the sum. Then we can start to solve it. Fine. Okay. Now, what has been given in the sum, students? The very first thing they have given is your preference share capital. As you can see in the sum, 12% preference share capital is 4 lakh rupees. Then equity share capital they have given is your 6 lakh rupees. Long term borrowings is given, that is 2 lakh. Mortgage loan, right? Now students, whenever in your exam when you start to read the sum first, always make a habit of underlining the main points. Mortgage loan is your against furniture, right? So underline that mortgage loan against furniture. This all will be helpful when we start to solve the sum according to the preference, right? Then you have been given bank overdraft. Again, bank OD is secured against stock, right? So this will help you out to whether it is whether it is a preferential creditors, whether it is a secured creditors, or whether it is a unsecured creditors. Trade payables creditors 3,66,000. Immediately it should come to your mind, if nothing is given, then it is a unsecured creditors. As we had studied, that trade payables and creditors comes under the heading of unsecured creditors. Other current liability, salary of workmen, students, right? What is this salary of workmen? Is it a secured creditor? Is it an unsecured creditor? And again, is it a preferential creditor? It is a secured creditor, students, 4,000. Next is accrued holiday remuneration of a terminated employee, right? Accrued holiday remuneration of a terminated employee. Is it a secured, is it unsecured, or is it a preferential creditors, right? It is a preferential, as you must have studied. Short-term provision is given. Workman's pension, right? Workman's pension 20,000 is a secured creditor. Employees gratuity 40,000 rupees. So employees gratuity 40,000 is again, we can say, a preferential creditor. So you must be remembering the 5 heads of preferential creditors and what do we include in your secured creditors. I suppose liability side is clear. Asset side, you have been given various assets. We are not discussing it, but the only thing is, don't forget the cash balance of 32840 that we are gonna write in your liquidator's statement, right? 32840. Moving on to the adjustment, students. The first adjustment always will say you about the assets which are realized by the liquidator. So assets which are realized by the liquidator are as follows, that we will write down on the receipt side of liquidator statement. The next is given liquidation expenses, okay, that will write down on the payment side. To pay a 1 year dividend to preference shareholders. Remember, students, 1 year dividend to preference shareholders. So on preference share total capital, we will calculate the dividend. All the liabilities were paid on 30/4/2019, right? That is 1 month after you are paying all the liabilities. Creditors, that is your against loan mortgage on furniture. So I make you underline this thing, had sold furniture for 2 lakh and returned the surplus amount to the liquidator. So we'll see when we solve it, because the long term liabilities are 1 lakh 60, loan is 160, but they have received 2 lakh. So what they have done is, in the last sum also we saw the surplus point, here also we will write it down. According to company's article, the preference shareholders are eligible for 40% share from the surplus if there is after paid up to equity capital, right? So this is the new point that you need to study in the sum. Again, most important, same type of university sums comes in your exam. Liquidator's remuneration in the last sum, it was easy. We calculated it on the assets realized. Here, a huge bifurcation is given, students. 1% on equity, 2% on preference, 3% on amount realized including surplus, 4% on preferential creditors, 5% on amount paid to all unsecured creditors except preferential creditors, right? So I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Shall we begin with the sum? Fine. I hope each of one of you are having the format ready and the sum with you. Moving on, students, with the format, you must be preparing it. I am giving you 1 minute to prepare the format. If you have not, and if you have the ready format, kindly go through the sum so that we can quickly start with it. Fine. I hope everyone must now be ready with the format, students. Starting with it, the very first to always start with is your cash balance, right? So what you need to do is to write down on the receipt side to cash balance. I hope it is visible to each one of you. To cash balance. What is the cash balance? I made you underline in the balance sheet. That is 32,840 rupees. 32,840 rupees is the cash balance. Fine. Okay. Next thing I should always write down is your assets realized, right? First, always make a habit of completing the receipt side first. Fine. So what I'll do is in the adjustment number 1, it is given to assets realized. To assets realized. What is the assets realized? Take the new values which are given in the sum, students. You have been given 4 assets which are realized. The first is your land and building. Write down the total in the inner column. 13,60,000 is the new value. Second asset you have been given is your debtors. Debtors is 38,000 rupees. So what I'll do is I'll write down debtors also. In exam you can write down the full heading of it. Here I am writing in short. Debtors is 38,000. Then the next you are having is stock. Stock is your 2,02,000 rupees, right? So stock is your 2,02,000 rupees, students. And the last is your machinery. Machinery is your 4 lakh rupees. Machinery is 4 lakh rupees. So whatever they had said in the question, I have written down every value. So what is my total assets realized? If you total it, then the answer will come to 240 and 15 and 16 and 20 lakhs, right? So your total assets realized comes to 20 lakh. Remember, students, each and every amount is related to the payment side because we have to pay liquidators remuneration. So if there is mistake in this amount, then there will be again mistake in this amounts also. Fine. So moving on, we have completed first 2 steps. We have completed the cash balance. We have completed the assets realized. One more thing which is given in adjustment is the surplus. Always go in sequence, students. First receipt side, cash balance, asset realized, surplus, then move on to payment side in the preferential orders. Fine. Okay. So is there any surplus given in the sum? Yes. If you can see in the adjustment number 5, they have given creditors, that is loan mortgage on furniture, had sold furniture for 2 lakh rupees and returned the surplus amount to the liquidator, right? So what is the amount? Mortgage loan against furniture, that is 160. So surplus will be, so first I'll write down to surplus from where it is coming from, furniture, to surplus from furniture. How much it is? 2 lakh minus 1,60,000 rupees. So I am getting a surplus of 40,000 rupees. Is it clear? So this surplus they have returned it to us. So we will consider this surplus, right? I suppose it is clear. So now, students, we have completed the receipt side. we'll be starting with the payment side, right? So what does your payment side starts with? Always remember the sequence. We always start with the secured creditors, right? So what I'll do is I'll write down on the payment side first of all by secured creditors, right? There will be a long list of things to be written on payment side, so kindly adjust your spaces. By secured creditors, amongst the secured creditors, the very first thing you can find it on the liability side, right? As we discussed earlier also, the very first thing I can find out is your workman's pension, that is 20,000, right? So what I'll do is I'll write down here under this head pension, inner column 20,000. The things which I remember and the points you should also read before every sum so that you can be clear with that. Pension 20,000. The next thing you are having under your secured creditors is workman's salary, right? We discussed this, students. Workman's salary 4,000 rupees. So I will write down workman salary 4,000 rupees is my workman's salary. I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. Next I can find out is one more secured creditors, that is bank overdraft. Bank overdraft is secured against the stock, right? Now in the previous adjustment, the creditors sold the furniture and then they had given us the surplus, right? That is why, students, we have not included furniture in any of the assets realized. But here nothing is said. So what we had considered is we have sold the stock and then we have paid this. So again we'll be paying bank overdraft here. If it would have been said, first of all write down bank overdraft 1,80,000 is paid. If it would have been said that bank overdraft, bank people only sold the stock and they returned the money, then again surplus amount would be there and here only surplus would be returned. But if nothing is said, we are selling the assets and we are receiving the money and paying them, right? So keep in mind that thing. So I suppose no other secured creditors are there. What we'll do is we'll total up this and we'll write down in the outer column, that is 2,04,000. You will be getting the answer. So I suppose you all are clear with the first step of your payment side. Second step is your liquidation expenses and liquidators remuneration, right? So first I'll write down what is directly given by liquidation expenses. As you can see in the second adjustment, it is given that liquidation expenses amounts to rupees 24740. So 24740 I will write down as liquidation expenses. The next thing I am having is a list of liquidators remuneration. So I'll need a bit space for it. So what I'll do is by liquidators remuneration. By liquidators remuneration. First of all, what I'll do is, students, whatever information they have given, I will directly write it down. That is on all the things. What is being given without amount, I will write down 1% on equity, 2% on preference, 3% on amount realized. You can find it in the adjustment number 7, students. 3% on amount realized, 4% on preferential creditors. Remember, students, we have not solved this out, so we don't know the amount actually right now. When we'll solve it, we will get the amount. Just now I'm just posting it because sequence is to be maintained. And the last is your 5% on unsecured creditors. Is it clear? So 5 things, whatever they had asked, I have written it in the sum, right? So your 5 things is done. Now equity capital, I don't know. Preference capital also I don't know. Then amount realized, we have, right? We actually have it. So we can calculate it on amount realized, and preferential and unsecured is not there, right? So what I'll suggest you is, first of all, you need to find out the preferential creditors and unsecured creditors. Then at the time of preference and equity, we will move on to your liquidators remuneration. That will be our general flow in the sum, right? So what we'll do, students, is first of all I'll write down. After that comes, as you all know, first is secured, then liquidation expenses and remuneration. Then you write down by preferential creditors. This is not preference shares, this is preferential creditors, right? So by preferential creditors, now here, students, what do you include in preferential creditors? Again, we'll move on to the liquidity side, that is the liability side of your balance sheet. Here loan is done, debentures we will not write down here. Then stock is done, creditors are your unsecured creditors, salary of workmen already done, accrued holiday, yes, we'll take this in your preferential creditors. Workman's pension, it is already done, and gratuity, right? So two things I found out from the liability side. You should be very clear with the list of your preferential creditor, students, because many a time short sums also come. So gratuity plus leave salary. What is my gratuity? 40,000. And what is my leave salary? Accrued holiday 30,000. So I'll write down the total preferential creditors, that is 70,000 rupees. I suppose it is clear. So one more remuneration I have got after amount realized is preferential creditors. We'll solve it afterwards. After you have given to preferential creditors, the next step comes to pay to debenture holders, that is floating charge securities, right? So how much is your debenture holders? Debenture holders are 2 lakh rupees, right? 2 lakh rupees is the debenture holders, and it is said, students, that all the liabilities are paid on 34 2019. So 1 month delay, because balance sheet is on 31st March, so we have to pay 1 month interest to debenture holders, right? So what I'll do is, first I'll write down by debentures. What is the amount of debentures? 2 lakh rupees plus outstanding interest of 1 month. So you can calculate, if 12% is for 12 months, for 1 month it will be 1% on 2 lakh. So I'll get the answer of 2000, and my debentures will be 2 lakh 2000 rupees, right? So the total amount which I am paying to the debentures will be 2 lakh 2000 rupees. I hope it is clear to everyone. Just check the date of the payment of the liability and the date of which the last interest is paid. So my debentures are also paid. The next thing I need to do is to pay to unsecured creditors. Right now, the only thing left out on your balance sheet is your capital and your creditors, right? So I'll write down by unsecured creditors. By unsecured creditors, they will be paid in full 3,66,000 rupees, right? Now we have completed majority of the part. Only thing left out in your exam also will be your liquidators remuneration and the part of your capital which you are having the surplus. Before knowing the surplus, as I know, there will be no other thing on the receipt side. What I'll do is, I'll total up the receipt side first so that I come to know whether there is a surplus or there is a deficit. Fine. So I'll total up 32840, I'll total up 20 lakh, and I'll total up 40,000. So the total which I am getting, students, is 20 lakh 72,840. 20 lakh 72,840 is the total which I am getting, right? So I suppose it is clear to everyone. Now students will be calculating the amount of your liquidators remuneration, right? For that you need to come to working notes. Right? After your sums format is completed, you can start with your working notes. You have to show this calculation compulsory in your exam, students. Now, first working note you will be having for 1% on amount paid to equity, but as we don't know the amount paid to equity, we will not write it down. Preference also same, will not calculate right now. After that is your 3% on amount realized, right? So what is the amount realized, students? As you can see, the amount which the liquidator has realized is 20 lakh plus 40,000. So what will be paying 3% into 20 lakh 40,000 rupees is equals to. So So the amount comes to 61,200 rupees. Just keep it as it is. We will post all the things together. The next they have given is 4% on preferential creditors. Remember, it is not preference shares, it is preferential creditors. So how much amount is on preferential creditors? Preferential creditors, students, we saw is 70,000. So 4% on 70,000 gives me the amount of 2800 rupees. So again we'll put up here only, then we'll post it together. The third notes will be related to payment to, that is how much it is, 5% on unsecured creditors. 5% on unsecured creditors is equals to 5% into the amount is 3,66,000. We saw it right now. So your answer comes to 18,300 rupees, right? So what I'm having is, out of 5 liquidators remuneration, I have solved 3. So I can directly post it where I have written the sum first of all, that is your format. 3% on assets realized. So 3% on assets realized, 61,200 I will write down. Preferential creditors 2,800 and unsecured creditors 18,300. I suppose it is clear to every student. Now the only thing is to find out the amount to be paid on preference shares and equity shares, right? So first of all, whenever you are having this total, do the total of receipt side minus deduct all this total. Whether you are getting the surplus amount or whether you are getting the deficit amount, right? So what I'll do is, receipt side I am having the total of 20,72,840. This will be again your working students. 20,72,840 is my total receipt amount. Minus deduct everything, right? You need to deduct everything. So find out first of all how much amount is to be paid to equity shareholders. Equity share capital, I suppose it is 6 lakh, plus preference share capital, I suppose it is 4 lakh. Now one more information is given in your adjustment, students. In your adjustments it is given that 1 year preference dividend is to be paid, right? So you need to pay 1 year preference dividend also. 1 year preference dividend means 12% on 4 lakh gives me 48,000. So in all I need to pay 10 lakh 48,000. So what you need to do the total of receipt side that we have already done, deduct all this thing, whether you are having more amount than this or lesser amount. If more amount, then there is no issues. If less, then you need to do the proportion. Then first preference shares will be paid, whatever is the balance will be paid to equity shareholder, right? So I suppose more balance is there, that is why they have asked in the sum that you have to pay the surplus also to the equity and the preference shareholders, right? So students will pay the amount one by one. First, after your unsecured creditors, as you all know, first you need to pay to preference shareholders. So I'll pay to preference shareholders. You need to pay, students, them two things, 4 lakh plus 48,000. 4 lakh 48,000 rupees. I'll pay them, right? After paying them, you need to again pay the surplus amount, right? So what you need to do is simply leave one line after this. Leave one line and then write down by equity. First of all, we'll be paying to equity shareholders their amount 6 lakh rupees. So our 80% sum is completed. Only thing you need to do is you need to pay the surplus amount to the equity and to the preference shareholders, right? So when I do the total of receipt side minus when I do the total of your payment side. Now here also, students, what you can do is 1% on equity, 2% on preference shares. So directly put up the amount on the capital of both of them, because you need to pay on this amount also, right? You need to pay on both this amount. So when you will pay, the surplus remuneration will only be left out. So what I'll do is I will calculate in the working notes that my remuneration on equity is equals to 6 lakh into 1% gives me the amount of how much, students? 6,000, right? 6 lakh into 1% gives me 6,000. So I know at least I need to pay the 6,000 amount to liquidator's remuneration, and if any surplus is left, then we need to pay on that also. Remuneration similarly on preference, how much we are paying to preference total, dear students? 4,48,000. So 4,48,000 into 2%, right? So 4,48,000 into 2%, just calculate it, gives me the amount of how much? It gives me the amount of 8,96,000. So 8,960 amount I am getting for my preference share holders. Is it clear, students? Fine. So what I'll do is I'll just write down in the inner column first of all again the remuneration which we have found out, 6,000 and 8,960, right? Now when I deduct the entire amounts from my receipt side, I will find out the surplus amount, right? The surplus amount which I am finding out, that gives me the value of, you can calculate it, right? What is the value you are getting from the surplus amount? You can find it out quickly, students, what amount you are getting. I suppose you all must be getting the amount, students, of 60,840 rupees, right? This should be the amount you should get, the difference, right? Now here also, students, what they have said is you need to bifurcate it, the surplus, amongst the equity share and the preference shareholders in the ratio of 40% to preference and 60% to equity. But directly you cannot deduct the ratio, students, right? Because it includes your liquidator's remuneration also, because it is very clearly said that liquidator's remuneration is to be paid on the amount paid to equity and your preference shareholders, right? So what I need to do is I need to bifurcate it first into 40/60, and then I need to divide the remuneration, right? So when you will bifurcate this in the ratio of 40 and 60, you will get the working note for preference shares and equity shares. 40% is equals to, I will make a table so that you come to know about the liquidator's remuneration and the capital surplus. So for preference, I will get the answer of 40,000. For equity, I'll get the answer of, for preference shares, I'll get the answer of 24,000. Sorry, my mistake, students, 24,000. And for equity, I'll get the answer of 36,000. So that it makes the total of 60,000, 40/60 ratio. Remuneration is to be calculated on this amount only, right? So what I'll do is 24,000 into 2% will give me the remuneration of 480 rupees. Again 36,000 into 1% will give me the remuneration of 360 rupees. So that my total comes to 840 and 60,000, right? You can calculate it directly. So 60,000 and 840 is my total thing. So now I know, students, I can post it in my sum that my remuneration on equity is 6,000 plus 360 which I am having. So my total remuneration to equity share comes to 6,360. This is most important, students. You can put a star over there so that you can revise it once again. On preference shares, it was already 8,960 plus I am paying them 480. In exam you can write it with pencil and then you can again always write it in the outer column. So for preference shares, the amount will be 9440, and don't forget to write the balance amount also here. So I will write down one word, surplus. Surplus, I am paying them how much surplus? 24,000. How much surplus I am paying to equity shareholder students? I am paying them the surplus of 36,000. So when you will do the total of the entire sum, you will get the answer of the receipt side. Why? Because we have deducted and we have found out the balance out of it. That is 20,72,840. So this was your sum, dear students. This was your VNSGU 2016 sum, right? So this was your VNSGU 2016. Same sum is asked 4 times in your exam in the last previous year's papers, right? So you need to practice it very thoroughly, students. I hope everyone must be clear with the sum. The most important part you need to take out is to follow the sequence, right? So what, again a quick glimpse in 1 minute, what we'll do is, the very first is to analyze the sum, what is being given and what is in adjustment given. On the receipt side, you will write 3 things. The very first is your cash balance, second is your asset realized, that will be always which are realized by the liquidator in the adjustments given new value, and the next is if any surplus is there, you will be write down, right? Apart from that, in other sums, calls will also be there, but that we will see when we solve the sum. On the payment side, the very first is by secured creditors, directly take the amount whatever included in it. Next is liquidators expenses, liquidators remuneration. When 5 types are given, calculate on the things which are available, like your amount realized, preferential creditors and unsecured creditors. Then you will write down preferential creditors, then debentures. Calculate the outstanding interest if any, if the date differs from your payment date. Then start with preference shareholders and equity shareholders, right? Now at the end, students, one line is given, that surplus. If any surplus is left out, then you need to pay. So first you will do the total of receipt side, minus you will do the total of payment side, then you will deduct it. I suppose it is clear to each and every student. Fine. So you can practice the sum one more time. Once you understand the sum, then do it on your own. Then only you can come to know about the difficulties which you are having. Put your queries in the Google Classroom if any. We are there to help you out. Fine. So have a good day ahead, students. Thank you for your attention. This is Professor Shaurya Shah teaching you Advanced Accounting and Auditing Paper 2. Have a nice day, students. See you in the next lecture.